All right, guys. So this is the very, very last stage. This is where, um, well, this is into the last stage. There's a few things that I'm just going to discuss that I did here, and something that I left out by accident. So when I designed my still life, I'll talk about that first. When I designed my still life, I had a wooden spoon here that I put inside of a water pitcher. We used it often, and I forgot to put it back. And I eventually took the still life down when I thought I was finished, and then I saw it. And I started to use the photograph to put it in. It wasn't working. It's not easy drawing from a photograph when you drew everything from observation, and it was rushed. And I felt like it still had this kind of triangular composition that I was trying to achieve with the still life, and it translated into the drawing. Yes, I think that the wooden spoon wouldn't hurt. But for now, I'm going to go without because I have to move on to the next project. Okay, so what I've done so far is I outlined, and because I use soft pencils here, I went up to my 5B in some cases, as you can see right here. This corner is almost closest to me. This cup is actually the closest form to me, but the focal point, I mean, actually I could darken this a little bit more if I wanted to. And pull it forward, but all these are kind of on the same plane, so I made these dark. This is a little lighter. This is definitely the lightest, and this tissue box here is kind of on the light end. And then you can see that I put in the table lines. If without those table lines, these are magically floating forms in space, and it looks really odd. So at the very end of the project, put in those table lines, cite those angles. It's really simple to do because you have all this information there. All you have to do is cite the angle, and then you transfer the angle here and throw it down. And you can see that the table itself is going to a vanishing point. The angles are a lot different than what you think they are, because you're going, oh, it's a table. I look down on it. That's a plane. But when you're almost eye level with the table, these lines are going to go to a vanishing point. And again, that's why we study perspective first, because then you can apply that intuitive perspective to your drawing. So when you cite, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's going to be go towards that diagonal. Now, another thing that I did here too, I threw a little Amazon emblem there because it was on the front of the box. I did that deliberately because this was a big empty space and it needed some kind of activity. So there was this tape here, this black tape that I outlined. It was actually wider, but I made it thinner for aesthetic purposes. And then I drew the little emblem here. And if you notice, the emblem fits within it's on the same diagonal as the box. It's not, it's on the same plane, and it fits. Half of it's on this side, half of it's on this side. And what I did was I crossed my corners. I established how far I was going to go out on this side. I ran a line up, over, and down, and that told me how far I wanted to go on this side. Obviously, I went a little bit in from the line, and I did a little bit on the same on the other side. Therefore, it feels like it's centered on the form itself. But that is definitely an accessory. Talk about accessories. These are accessories. Handles are accessories. But those little textural moments or iconography or graphics, that's what I meant to say, graphics on top of things, like for example, I think there's a flower graphic on this tissue box. Did I want to put it in? No, I'm not going to waste my time doing that. I just wanted to kind of put the tissue box in. That was enough to suggest that it's a tissue box and the tissue itself. Other than that, I'm finished. Other things I want to emphasize is transparency. Transparency of form. So you can see with this rectangle here, you can see that the ellipse of this bowl goes behind, but it's a really light line. And then I put a dark line here. You can see transparency behind the straw, but I really erased that straw clean because I wanted that straw to be a key component to the design. I kind of love these straws. It directs your eye, moves your eye throughout. Actually moved the straw from the original composition. So let me go back to transparency. So objects between forms, I even have my construction lines here still there. I want you to keep all those in because you used a harder pencil. They should stay and they should just kind of fade away as you start to put the darker lines in. So this is considered basically finished. I might even hit this cup one more time. And the last thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to just take a B pencil, something in the middle of hard and soft. So your HB, your B, your 2B, they're more in the middle. So here's my B, and I'm gonna get a ruler somewhere. Here we go. And I'm just going to outline the border now that, because originally I didn't really have anything that cropped the, that was cropping the border. And so, but the table does now, right here. So that's good, because a border is kind of senseless if you don't have anything that's running into it, right? So I'm just going to take my border and I'm going to make it a little bit darker now that I'm finished my drawing, just like you did in the perspective drawing. Not that every drawing needs a border, but for two reasons I like to have borders. For one, you're starting to think about how things are cropped off, right? You're using a border specifically. I'll talk about this in a second. The other reason is that when you're finished your drawing, you can handle your paper. You can grab it with your fingers. So if you work with charcoal, instead of going all the way to the edge, and you have an area to tape and things like that. It's a two-dimensional piece of paper. If you ever decide to frame something, you just put the mat board and crop it off even further. Not a big deal. Now, I deliberately, with this box here, because when I was originally measuring, I kind of wish I went over. Maybe I moved everything over a ½ an inch, because then I would have been able to include this box. You can see all the space I have here. My quick sketch was maybe too fast and I didn't get the best idea. So I kind of wish I moved everything over, but you know, you start, what are you going to do? You have to problem solve while you're drawing. So then I just broke the border with the tissue box. If I crop this off, which I'll just crop it off with the ruler. If I crop it off, it might work. It could be okay. You could try it out, but I just think it's too close to this line, and I think it might look like it's misdrawn, if that's a word. Drawn wrong. For example, if I were to put this line in, and then I erase this, it looks like this line is the edge of the box, and I just don't want the viewers to get confused about that. So in this case, I'm going to go around the tissue box and just put my border around it, so it kind of breaks the plane of the tissue box. It's kind of fun. It's not there's no rules about this if you can or can't do that. I just thought that was there's a reason why I did it. It wasn't an arbitrary decision. So there should be a reason why you're doing what you're doing. And I'm just throwing the line from the border in. Once that's in, you're basically complete the project. And the more I look at this, the more I think I want to draw the eye over here a little bit more, because there's a lot of activity here on the right side and there's not that much there. So one of the two things that I can do is I can draw the eye here by darkening the wine glass, but and it's closest. So there's two reasons that would make sense. The other thing, what I could do is I could get another simple object, like a cylindrical thing. Maybe this, like this drinking glass here was pretty easy to draw. I could put this here, put it right behind here, and add another form just to bring my eye there. If there's an area in your drawing that really needs activity, that's fine. Another thing you could do is just throw over some of your construction lines. That actually activates that space as well. One thing I just realized, actually I'll do it while I'm making a video here. Two things. I'm going to outline this here and just a little darker with a 5B actually, but this is the very end. Be careful with the 5B because it can smear, and I'm going to talk about that with a piece of paper. But before I go there, I want you to notice these straws. Notice when they go in, or you follow the straw, this is a straw that's connected, and once it goes into this glass, wine glass, the glass itself kind of creates this effect where it moves over to the left. I can't think of the word right now that creates that effect. But here as well, and I forgot to kind of point this one out too. So this straw, I'm just gonna outline just a little bit more. So this straw here, I'm gonna make this a little darker, does the same thing because this is a drinking glass. So I just kind of moved it over to the left just to kind of get the suggestion that this is a glass and it's distorting. That's the word I'm looking for. It distorts the object. So it might even be fatter here, whatever. I don't have, I took the still life down, so I don't have it, but I thought it was kind of a fun move just to move it over to the left, move this over to the left, and then you get this idea that this is a glassware. Okay, now I'm just going to, oh, that's the other thing I was going to do. Grab a piece of paper if you're going to put your hand down, because now I have 4B, 5B, 3B, 2B all over here. It smears quite easily. So what I like to do is I will put my hand down and then I'll work on a piece of paper and then I'll work on a certain area. If I just want to like darken this area here. And I did say before, if it's helpful to turn, it might be outside of your view, but if it's helpful to turn this so you can get the other side, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing. It's just more natural for me to draw when the blind is in front of me instead of like trying to position my body in an awkward position. So. Again, this is a 5B. Now, another trick that I did that I hesitate telling students, only because people start to go a little crazy with it. This line here, I actually, when I was making the line, because you can just go over the same line and it's not going to get darker, it's just going to get deeper into the paper and eventually rip the paper. I just started to make the line fatter. So then I would move the ruler over to the left, to the left, to the left, and I would just make a couple lines. And a fatter line also looks like a darker line. It's just taking up more real estate. And again, anything that's straight, use the ruler. Don't use your hand and try to draw straight lines. This is why you have a ruler. You don't have to prove to yourself that you can do it. There's no reason to. And if there's any lines, like for example, by darkening this line here started to kind of fade away. Not fade away, but it's not competing as much with the exterior of the wine glass, because the wine glass now has, that's what's called hierarchy, has kind of said, hey, I'm the more important one, look at me. It's kind of screaming more, so you start to pay attention to the wine glass one because it's darker in value. And that's it. Kind of deliberately made that dark there, but I don't know. I like that. I'm gonna lighten that a little bit. Okay, so basically that's it. Once you finish this, document this outside on a nice sunny day, preferably during the middle of the day when the sun is above you, and make sure the sun is in front of you, not behind you, so it doesn't cast a shadow. And I'll see you later.